Hello, everyone. Welcome to another episode of Let's Chat Reality. I'm Michael,
And I'm Molly.
and we are here today once again to talk week 3 of Love Island USA season 7. This season just keeps getting better and better. I think, I feel like when we came into this season, people were saying, how is this ever going to top season 6? It's not going to be the same without the PPG. And I think the first couple of weeks, people were still a little hesitant about, like, oh, how's this going to go? But gosh, right after we finished recording last week, this season kicked into overdrive. I'm fully in at this point, Molly. What about you?
Yeah, no, for sure. I feel like it's it's just crazy what's been going on, and also it's so many people who are watching it that it's fun, that it just feels like part of like everyday kind of life right now. Like I go into the office and we're like, okay, let's talk about Love Island. Like it's just always top of mind, and it's I think it like has a lot of people, like more people talking about it now just because people started watching it because of last season. And so like I know people just really, really invested right now, which is just fun to have that environment for people who don't even really watch reality TV, but they're watching Love Island.
Oh, for sure. That's like half the fun of
Yeah.
this show is just being able to like go into work the next morning and talk about it with everybody and just seeing all the social media chatter and having your friends text you like, "Okay, I'm starting the episode right now. Like, let's watch together." Or like, "Have you watched yet?" Like, there's so few shows these days that you get that type of like fan base still
Mhm.
where it's like an event watch. Whereas I think like the Netflix like full season binge of shows kind of took that away for a lot of different shows. Like I think it's hard with a show like Love is Blind, for example, where it's like, okay, this show is huge or was at a certain point. Like, I think season 6 was kind of the peak of that, where it was like everybody's watching Love is Blind. But it's hard when they drop 6 episodes all at once to like be able to watch it with anyone. Whereas this, like, it's more than once a week. Obviously, it's like you're still getting that many episodes per week, but because they spread it out once per night, I think the way that they do that still allows you to be able to like have conversation on social media because you're at the same place as everybody else as long as they're caught up and watching night by night.
Yeah, oh for sure. And then you can't get that behind because then you're gonna have to catch up on a lot more episodes. So it really incentivizes you also to make sure that you are keeping up with each episode.
And you can vote when you're
And
caught
you can
up.
vote. Yeah.
So look at that.
Very,
That's another.
very engaging.
Yes. All right, well, let's get into it. Where we left off last week was with this Hannah and Pepe conversation in the speakeasy that, of course, ended in a makeout between the two of them. We see at the start of the episode that Hannah tells Charlie about it. She is honest with him about what happened. He's, of course, not thrilled to hear it, but he agrees, like, okay, we can move forward from it. I understand that we're not exclusive, so, you know, we'll forget about that for right now and agree to move forward. But then, of course, the next day, Hannah kisses Pepe again, and after seeing Charlie pull Iris for a chat, where she's like, "Hey, I didn't pull Pepe for a chat; he pulled me, and he's doing this right in front of me," and like, she's upset about it. I don't know. A lot of people think that was kind of hypocritical of Hannah to be upset about that. What do you think, Molly? What do you think about the way
Yeah,
Hannah handled all of that?
I think it's fine. Like at this point, like they hadn't had the conversation that they were closed off. So, like, I think it's fair for anyone to talk to anyone.
Yeah, no, I totally agree. I think that they were both not, neither of them were in the wrong for what they did. I think for either of them to get upset about what the other one did is a little bit hypocritical, but that's also Love Island. Look, like you get in your feelings, like, nobody ever said that we're not, if anything, as humans are not hypocritical once in a while. But Charlie also then is being a little bit upset with Hannah for kissing Pepe once again. Decides to explore a connection with Amaya. Out of seemingly kind of nowhere, this came from, but Amaya not into it. She tells him that she's not willing to go there because of her friendship with Hannah, which I respected. You know what? Like Amaya's a girl's girl. I think Huda claims to be a girl's girl. Amaya, I feel like we have seen proven herself to be a girl's girl.
Yeah. No, for sure. That conversation was just awkward because you knew Amaya was not into that just by reading the body language of it, and just felt kind of bad for Charlie, but also not really. I was like, well, like, why is he trying this now? Like, this is just, it felt like not super genuine, but um, I felt it was good to see Amaya standing up for her girl.
For sure, yeah, and I think that Charlie, this felt desperate from Charlie a little
Yeah.
bit. This felt like, okay, I don't know if Hannah and I are going to be able to get back together. If I'm not with her, I don't really have anyone else here. There's probably a recoupling coming up soon, so I gotta find someone. And Amaya was obviously at that point not really having any strong connection since it didn't work out with Ace, clearly. So I think he felt like she was kind of his only option potentially, and shot his shot, but it definitely missed this time. But didn't really matter because he then has a conversation with Hannah right before the recoupling. I actually heard from on After Sun last night that Ariana said that she was actually supposed to go in the villa a little bit earlier in the night than she did for this recoupling. But at the moment when she was supposed to walk in, Hannah and Charlie were having this conversation, and the producers were like, "We can't interrupt this because this could be game changing." Like they're having a very important conversation right now. So they ended up holding Ariana for a little bit until this conversation was over, which was super interesting. But yeah, they decided to be exclusive here during this conversation. They both say they don't really want to explore with anyone else. So they're going to choose to fully be together, define the relationship, and then we go to the recoupling after that.
Yeah, I was happy to see them become like more like invested in each other, but obviously now we know what happens after that also. So it feels now bad. It's like, well, you had 20 minutes of being exclusive, and then that was it.
Yeah, ugh, yeah. Well, we'll get to that, but before we do, let's talk a little Paige Sorbo. Paige is hosting this challenge that we see right after this here, and she leaves the challenge early. We find out later that it was because she passed out from the heat. She had just gotten off a very, very long flight and was wearing not the exact outfit that you would want to in this heat, I would say, but they wanted her to get something that was lumberjack chic. And that was the only thing she could find in her closet at such short notice. And it was not the best choice for this particular weather that they were having in Fiji. But always happy to see Paige. Love that she got this opportunity. I hope she gets another opportunity to do something else maybe in the villa. I would love to see her just like guest host for a recoupling or something where maybe she wouldn't have to be out in the scorching heat for this long and have that issue again. But love Paige.
Yeah, I know. It was sad to see that happen to her, but she did great for the time that she was able to host it. So it was great to see her. And it was a fun challenge also to watch.
It was, yes. We see Elandria get a lot of attention in this challenge. She ends up kissing Nick, Jeremiah, Ace. She was the popular pick for this challenge, and love to see it.
Yeah, I'm Team Alandria.
Yes, definitely. I think she is. I feel like she's a lot. Everybody. I don't know if she's everybody's like number one top favorite, but she is definitely. I feel like if you ask any Love Island fan, I feel like she's going to be like certainly in the top three for pretty much everybody that I could possibly think of.
Oh, yeah, for sure.
Well, then, of course, that night, Ariana comes into the villa to surprise the Islanders by letting them know that America voted to decide who the new bombshells, which are Jalen, Pepe, and Iris, should couple up with. First of all, what did we think of this twist here? This surprise extra recoupling just for the new bombshells. This was something that we'd never seen before, letting America decide who they couple up with. What did we think of this twist? Should something that they should do again?
I thought it was good. I mean, obviously caused drama that we wanted to see happen. But I feel bad also somewhat for the Islanders because then they didn't have a say into like who they were with if they didn't really want to be coupled up. Like we just saw Hannah tell Charlie she wanted to be just with him, and then now Hannah's coupled up with Pepe, and it's like a little bit like, okay, well now I kind of feel bad that we voted for that, but also now she's okay, but that's going forward. But in general, like it's like I feel like that part of it isn't always the best, but I like the aspect that like I like that you could vote for the couples because that just made it fun and entertaining and drama, and that's what we were here for.
Yeah, I think the only problem that I have with it is that it depends what you're watching Love Island for. I think if you're just solely watching it for the drama and you don't care if any couple comes out of this season like as a successful relationship, then this is fantastic. This worked out like couldn't have possibly worked out better for that. I think the only problem that I see is kind of what you were saying that I agree with, which is we see these connections starting to blossom like between Hannah and Charlie, and I feel like that was starting to become a couple that could have lasted gotten for the long haul throughout the season, and we're just kind of cutting them off at the knees where it's like, okay, now there's no possible way that they because Charlie's gone now. I mean, spoiler alert, but this coupling, that this blossoming relationship is now just gone. And I mean, look, Hannah seems to be happy with Pepe right now, but who knows what could have happened with Charlie and how much drama there could have been if they had both been in the villa together still. And would Hannah have stayed loyal to Charlie? Would she have continued to possibly explore things with Pepe and gotten kind of conflicted? That's something that we're missing now. So I think that it certainly served its purpose, but I do slightly worry that if we don't end up with any successful relationships this season, we're gonna look back at that and say like maybe if we hadn't done that or done it in a slightly different way, then we could have ended up with successful relationships.
Yeah. Yeah, definitely. But we also didn't know that in that moment when we were voting about Hannah and Charlie. So it was also like timing of that was hard to tell.
Oh, for sure. Yeah, at the time it seemed like okay, we're putting Hannah with somebody who she actually feels like it seemed like because I believe that vote happened right after we saw her make out with Pepe. And so it's like,
Yeah.
oh, we're giving Hannah exactly what she wants and we're putting her in a better coupling that, she probably would have chosen anyways, but then of course, not
Mhm.
exactly what happened. But let's get to the results here. So Jalen is coupled up with Alandria, making Taylor single and vulnerable. Pepe is coupled with Hannah, like we said, making Charlie single and vulnerable. And then here's the big one. Iris is coupled up with Jeremiah. And that makes Huda shocked, first of all, and single and vulnerable. What was your first reaction to hearing Jeremiah's name come out of Ariana's mouth?
Well, I personally wasn't shocked because I knew America voted for that. But I felt like in that moment, like everyone's reactions and just the way that it was being portrayed was exactly what I think America wanted to see of like everyone just being shocked and thinking that it was crazy, but also kind of good at the same time. And I was very happy to see it happen and unfold the way it did.
I just have to give props to the Love Island music team, the Love Island editing team. Everything about this was pure cinema.
Hmm.
Like I I've watched it so many times at this point. Whenever I'm feeling sad, I just go back and watch this moment because it's just pure perfection. I mean, I didn't think that anything could top Andrea's dumping last season, truly, just in terms of like iconic moments that are just so rewatchable. And it was, first of all, also episode 12. This was the exact same episode as the Andrea dumping last season, which is just wild. Just wild. But it's like I think there was a period of time where on Big Brother it was like episode 18, I think, or something like that was just like an iconic episode for like 3 seasons in a row. I feel like this is the new that. Like episode 12 of Love Island USA, just an iconic episode forever and always. But yeah, it was quite a moment. And I mean from Ace's laugh, just like at that moment to just like everybody's jaw drop, perfection.
Yeah. Oh, it was great. Great TV.
Yes. Well, the only thing that could have ruined it, just let me say, is if Iris had gone home. I mean, sorry, not Iris. If Huda had gone home and we didn't get to see the aftermath, because she was always, this made her single and vulnerable, as we said. And I think if Huda had left right after this, that would have, like, just, sucked out all the air from the room a little bit. But it worked out in such a perfect way because Taylor, Charlie, and Huda, as we said, were the options to be voted out. Ariana lets the everyone know that they will be voting out one of the single islanders. Amaya says, "No, we don't want to do that, though." And then everyone votes, and with 3 votes from Amaya, Shelley, and Sierra, Charlie is voted out, sadly. So, what were your thoughts on them choosing to vote out Charlie here?
I guess it made the most sense here because they felt that this like Huda should deserve another chance there, and Taylor and Alandra were still forming a close connection. Um, and Hannah was interested in Pepe. It just made sense, I think, to let Charlie go in this moment, even though it was sad to see him go. Like, I think it was the right vote here.
Yeah, I think I just, well, in that moment, and now maybe I think differently looking back, maybe, but in the moment, I thought it should have been Taylor.
Mm-hmm.
Just because Taylor really didn't have, like, I think at this point we felt like Taylor and Alandria were mostly just friends. Like, I don't think we really felt like there was any romantic connection there, that if anything, she had more of a possible connection with Jalen. And I think with Charlie, it felt like obviously he and Hannah, at that point were going to be exclusive. Obviously, Huda and Jeremiah at that point were strong, I guess. And Taylor, yeah, I felt like he just had the least possibility for a romantic connection with anyone who was there at that moment. And also, I think people were feeling like Taylor not bringing the most drama, that getting Taylor out wasn't going to leave us, any potential drama on the cutting room floor. But, he's an OG. And I think that's the thing is the OGs generally do watch out for each other and don't vote each other out when they have the option. And when it's somebody else versus them, we saw that last season, that exact same thing with the Andrea dumping. That they all the guys thought that it should have been who was it? Not
Janae.
Janae. Thank you. And the girls were like, "No, we're not going to do that. Like, even though she doesn't have a connection, we want her to find one." And so it's kind of the same situation with Taylor, I guess, where it's like, okay, he doesn't have one right now, but he's our boy. We're gonna protect him. And so, yeah, I guess, now I'm being hypocritical by saying it should have been Taylor when I didn't want it to be Janae last season. So look at that.
Yeah.
But
No, I get that, but I also really like Taylor, so I was like, I didn't want him to leave.
yeah, no, I agree. I think Taylor, I think now I look back at it and say I'm glad it wasn't Taylor,
Hmm.
but in that moment, I think felt like Taylor leaving was going to, drama-wise, at the very least, leave us with the best result of Charlie and Huda both still being in there after something dramatic happening to both of them.
Yeah.
But I'm glad in hindsight. I'm okay. Hannah found her guy with Pepe. They seem very happy now. So Charlie leaving didn't, keep her down for too long.
Yeah, for sure.
Well, let's get into episode 13 then. Ace and Nick confront Jeremiah about his relationship with Huda. So, after all the fallout from the recoupling and the America's vote, uh, Ace and Nick seem to really speak their minds now. It seems like this is something that they've probably been holding in, thinking about for a while with Jeremiah and Huda's relationship. And this has kind of given them the permission to be like, we agree with America. So they think that Jeremiah and Huda care more about making it to the end as a couple and winning the game than they actually do about staying together as a couple. And my understanding is that their thought process is that basically they feel like you couldn't have possibly been just like so exclusive and close 30 seconds into getting to the villa. That there's no possible way that you that found each other that quickly without exploring other options, and that the only answer to that is that you were both just looking to be an a couple no matter who it was. Do you agree with that, with what they're saying there?
I I don't think so entirely. Like I think yes, it didn't really make total sense that they were closed off immediately, but it did seem like what they had was real enough. Like, like I didn't think it was that they were trying to just win the game, but it did give like, well, we don't care to look for anything else either.
Yeah, I think I agree with that. I think that they did find something real. I do think that I don't think that on either of their ends, Huda or Jeremiah, I don't think that they were just kind of being like, okay, let's just kind of fake this until for the next 5 weeks, and then when we get out, go our separate ways. Like I really don't think that that's was in either of their minds fully. But I think we have seen little clues, like Jeremiah when Huda, I believe this was the time when he said this, when Huda revealed to him that she had a kid, that she
Mhm.
was a mommy, you could say, mamacita, if you will, that he said something like, well, when we get to the end and win, it's not going to matter, or something like that. And that phrasing of it did set off little alarm bells in my head, where it's like, that shouldn't really even be on your mind, technically. Like in Bachelor terms, if you're here for the right reason, that's not going to be at the forefront of your mind, especially in such an important moment where like she's telling you such a huge thing, and that's one of the first thoughts that you have. That's kind of little red flags in my mind, but I don't. I see what they're saying, but I don't necessarily think that it's true.
Yeah, agreed.
Well, Huda is, of course, in this moment, very upset. She is particularly upset that Jeremiah didn't comfort her after the recoupling. This kind of starts to make her spiral a little bit. She starts to think that he was never genuine with her. She's kind of convincing herself that he's this villain that America hates, and that's why America wanted her to get away from him. So do you think, first of all, that Jeremiah should have been more comforting to her, especially in that moment? And then, what do you think about kind of her spiral here and what she's kind of convinced herself of?
Yeah, I mean, I feel like Huda just, as she says too, but she does have a crash out here where she definitely could have reacted also in a better way to not having Jeremiah comfort her. But in general, like I do think in this kind of setting, like they moved really, really quickly, and then all of a sudden it's just stop, and he's in a new couple. So that's just like a big change to get used to. And then on top of that, then he's not even trying to comfort her, like really be there for her in this hard time, which is going to make her feel even worse about it all. But he's just not really sure what to do to navigate it. It seems like, he's just like, all right, bye. Like he didn't really know how to handle that. So I don't really fault Jeremiah for that because also I don't know how I would handle that. I'm like, well, America voted for this. Like, what should the situation be here? But he should have at least said something more, like been there to just talk to her a little bit, just like try to be cordial there because you're still living in the same house. Like you're not usual that you're gonna be in the bed next to your ex, like it's not the greatest situation to be in, so you might as well be more comfortable with each other. But I don't like when Huda was saying she didn't think that Jeremiah was genuine at all, because I do think he was. They just went in full force, and then they were just toxic together, and it just wasn't meant to be.
Yeah. I think that Huda is right in certain aspects that he should have comforted her. Like 100% full stop, he should have comforted her in that moment. She was the one who was potentially going to be voted out here. She was in the more precarious position, and so obviously I do think that he should have been a little bit more mindful of that. But on the other hand, I think that even if he had done that, she would have still had this crash out and found other reasons why he was going to be the villain. And I feel like she just had to convince herself in her head that it wasn't her being the villain, because that would have made her go even more crazy. Just like, and maybe that is like, maybe in the back of her mind she kind of knows or has a feeling that it's not just Jeremiah that was the villain here. That America probably didn't like both of them, or there was something like it wasn't just 100% all his fault that they were in this position. I think that she knows that, and she's just trying to convince herself otherwise.
Yeah.
But yeah, I think it's hard in Jeremiah's position too. Like, and not to say that he's not also in a bad position there, because it's like, do you give her space in this moment? Do you like, how much does she want you to comfort her and be there for her versus just kind of letting her be? Like, I could see how it's kind of like a little bit tricky, but I do think that to some degree he needed to go up to her and say like, "Hey, do you want me here? Do you not want me here? Like, what do you need in this moment?"
Yeah, agreed. Like they just weren't communicating, and that was not good.
Yeah. Well, in the middle of the night, the new couples leave for a date on a boat. And of course, this is yet another reason why Hedda has a little bit of a crash out here, because she wakes up in the middle of the night and sees Jeremiah gone, and she wakes up Taylor, and she's like, "They're gone, they're all gone." And if I'm Taylor, I'm pissed, first of all. Like, don't wake me up in the middle of the night to tell me something that's just going to upset me and then I'm not going to be able to fall back asleep. Like, I don't need to know this right this moment. Tell me in the morning.
Yeah.
But anyways, after the date, and they have a good date. Jeremiah has a good date with Iris. It seemed like, Alandria and Jalen have a good time. They all seem to be having a good time on this boat.
Yeah. No, it seemed like pretty uneventful overall. I mean, like everyone was getting along, so
Yeah.
really nothing crazy.
And I think it was good for, especially Jeremiah to be able to see like, okay, I can have a good time with someone else. This, Hood is not the end all be all with me for me here in this villa. I can explore other options, and maybe it's not going to be Iris, but this is just kind of almost like a stepping stone to then being able to fully put myself into a good relationship with somebody else who there's actual potential with, that I'm interested in that way, who may come in at a later time.
Yeah. No, definitely. It was good to see Jeremiah actually on a date and talking to someone
Yeah.
else besides Huda.
Away from the villa, like,
Oh wait.
had to get away from that environment for a minute, and eventually he does come back, of course, and he is talking with the boys and talking about the date with Iris and the situation with Huda. Nick tells him that it seems like he's given up on his relationship with Huda since he had a good date with Iris, while Huda is back at the villa crying this whole time, that she's still fully, had not moved on, whereas it seems like Jeremiah has just kind of put that in the past and moved forward. Uh, Huda's secretly listening into this conversation, though. She is behind the wall with her ear up to it and listening to everything that everyone's saying. And she ends up walking off because I believe Jeremiah says something like that I'm ready to explore other options, and then she says, "Go explore, by all means, explore," and walks up, and all the guys know that they have been eavesdropped on. And she then screams from across the yard, across the villa. She screams, "F you," calling him a bitch, and it's quite the scene.
Oh yeah. This was some wild, wild scene right here. I was like, well, first of all, I'm surprised that like she was able to hear. Oh, she went to the right spot, obviously, to hear the whole conversation, and the guys didn't even notice that she was over there. I'm like, how did she sneak over there? First of all, but that was crazy that they just kept the conversation and she heard the whole thing. Like I was like, this is great, great TV for us. But I did feel bad for Huda though afterwards. I'm like, well, I guess she didn't really need to hear that. But I mean, I guess she did because then it allowed her to realize she should just move on. Um, but yeah, she just was not happy.
No, definitely not. And she then ends up talking with Jeremiah later in the speakeasy. They have yet another fight. So it's just, this is really in these couple episodes here, like, this is a pattern of just Jeremiah and Huda having a conversation, trying to have a good conversation that just ends up in a fight, and then you do it all over again, rinse and repeat. Like, this is just a never-ending hamster wheel here. But that is the end. That ended episode 13. So now we'll get into the start of episode 14, where shockingly, yet again, Huda and Jeremiah talk outside and have a conversation. Huda gets upset. And for Jeremiah saying that he's not trying to get Huda to like him. So I think she says something to the effect of, this isn't the way to get me to like you again. And Jeremiah said, well, that's not what I'm trying to do. And I understood what he was saying here. Because what he was saying was, I'm not trying to say what you want to hear. Like, I'm saying my
Mm-hmm.
honest truth. I'm not going to
Yeah.
just tell you what you want to hear. And Huda, I think, completely misunderstood that and thought that he was saying, like, well, I don't care if you like me. And that's not what he was trying to say. Like, I could tell that's not what he was trying to say. And so, but of course, she misunderstood it and got all upset, storms off. And we can really see here that the rest of the group is getting frustrated with all this constant back and forth. That it's like, this is taking up all of our attention. We can't think about anything else. We can't focus on our own relationships because all the attention is always on Huda and Jeremiah.
Yeah, no, everyone was getting really fed up with all of it, which I feel like us as the viewers as well. We're just like, okay, can we see something besides Huda and Jeremiah fighting at this point? So I definitely at this point was like, yeah, like can Huda just stop? Like we need them have a separation for real this time, not just like fake separation. So it obviously was not good to see them continuing to fight. But it just went to show that really they needed to move on.
Yeah, I think this was the moment where it was like, okay, this clearly they're not going to get back together. Because I think there was a feeling like right after the recoupling where it was like,
Yeah.
okay, maybe you have a bad night this night, you're gonna argue, fight, but then like wake up the next morning, able to kind of look at it from a little bit more of a bird's eye view and say like, okay, let's regroup here. Maybe we can try to like just move past everything that happened and see if we can build this back up again. But clearly, I think this was the moment where it was like, okay, now we're days past this. We're still having the same arguments and conversations. It's going nowhere. This isn't going to work. So we need to like just cut the cord, fully move past this, move on with other people. And it didn't quite seem like either of them were there yet, though. But well, maybe Jeremiah more than Huda, but Huda's certainly not over this quite yet. But we did get a funny moment here because Alandria and Jeremiah accidentally reveal to Austin that Huda is a mother. It's such like I feel like so many of them have known for so long at this point that they forget that there's people, and I forget that there's people in the villa who still don't know this.
Yeah.
And but it was funny because this feels just very Austen to find out this way.
I know. It was a good moment. He was like, "Wait, she's a mother?" And it was just then Elandria being shocked that he didn't know yet, or she spilled yet another information, a piece of
I
information.
know, yeah. Wow, look at that.
Yeah, Elandria just likes to share the tea that she knows.
Hmm.
Um, but and she doesn't realize it, but I love that for her, just just sharing all the spilling all the beans. But I feel like it wasn't surprising really though, because it's like, well, like we already knew it. So seeing his reaction was funny.
Yes, it was. Well, that night, we have another recoupling, full recoupling this time. Right before it, when everybody is getting ready, Huda storms off crying when she sees Jeremiah pull out Iris's chair in front of her. This sets Huda off to see Jeremiah with another girl, and I think it's yet another example of we need Huda to somehow, and it's hard. Look, like I don't envy being in the situation where you break up with somebody who you were very exclusive with for, in Love Island terms, a long period of time. And then it's hard, I'm sure, for you both to still be in the villa and having to see each other with other people. Like, I don't envy that, but I do think just for her own mental health, she needs to get used to that and start to be okay with it because if they're not going to get back together and clearly that doesn't seem to be healthy for either of them, they need to get used to seeing each other move on.
Oh yeah, for sure. Like when I saw that happen, I was like, well, she hasn't matured yet this episode because I thought maybe things were gonna get better and she storms off. So
Yeah.
yeah.
Well, then Ariana comes in for the recoupling, and this is a different type of recoupling than we're used to here. So each of the girls stands behind a door. They each pick one guy who they want to couple up with, and this is the only guy who will be able to open that door. Then each guy, one by one, picks which girl they want to couple up with. If there's a match, the door will open. If not, it will remain locked, and that person will remain single. So, in the end, everyone who remains single will be vulnerable and up for elimination based on a vote from the rest of the Islanders. So, let's go through kind of one by one each of these couples. And there's a bunch of couples that we haven't talked about yet, really, because Huda and Jeremiah were basically the entire episodes. But as we go through them, we can kind of go into a little more detail on our thoughts on each of them. So let's start with Nick and Sierra. They were the first ones here to couple up. They were a match. I love Nick and Sierra. I mean, we see, we'll get to later on. There's a little bit of question for both of them of potentially exploring things with new bombshells that come in later. But at this moment, they seem to be kind of the steadiest couple.
Yeah, no, I agree. I like them together a lot. And I think even though like we see them do get tempted by these bombshells, like I think they're still gonna remain together and make it far. Like I really like them.
Yeah, I do too. I think that neither of them are the bombshells' first choices.
Mhm.
And so I really don't think that either of them are going to necessarily end up with either of the bombshells. So I think that they will end up just kind of coming back to each other and remaining pretty strong here for the first, well, until Casa Amor starts tomorrow. But for right now, I think that
Yeah.
they will go into Casa Amor being a couple with each other and not with someone else, if that makes sense.
Yes, agreed.
Then we have Pepe and Hannah, who we've talked a little bit about, but at this point, it seemed like, since Charlie left, that they very quickly, Hannah went to bed with a picture of Charlie from the photo booth, and by the next night, it seemed like she and Pepe, she had fully moved on. Charlie who?
Yeah, I know. I mean, this wasn't surprising at this point because they were already a couple from the last week, and they obviously didn't have anyone else to really pursue than each other. So I wasn't surprised to see them match up here.
Yeah. Then we have Austin and Amaya, who, thank God Amaya got out of her coupling with Ace. And Look, I don't know if I see anything really with romantic with Austin and Amaya happening. It seems like Austin in particular kind of views this more as a friendship coupling. Amaya, I think, is more hopeful that there's potential there, but I don't think Austin sees it, and I don't know that I see it for either of them.
Yeah, I think we obviously like Amaya has such a big personality and we like her for that, but it's also a lot on someone that you're with in a couple and especially in Love Island. Like he just became a couple with her and she's already talking about kids. Like he's just like, well, this is a lot for me. And I don't know if they're gonna come back or he's gonna like get back to a place of being more comfortable like with her because right now it just seems more friendship wise and then it's gonna turn into I think another blow up from Amaya if this is going down the same route that Ace and Amaya went down as well, which I mean not great for Amaya but good for us to watch. So we'll see what happens there, but I definitely don't think that they're gonna end up together.
No. And I think that this is a little bit different. Like, I actually don't think that Amaya will have the same level of anger towards Austin that she had towards Ace because Ace picked her. Like, this was a thing where, like, he chose her and then immediately was like, oh no, I don't want anything to do with you, actually. And whereas Austin, I feel like it was like, okay, we both are in couples that we're not happy in, let's explore and see if there's anything between us because we have a good friendship and a good rapport, so we can just kind of explore this. And I don't think either of them will have hard feelings if it doesn't work out. Like, I think they both realized that they were just kind of like put together based on situations that were they were both kind of going through similar things and could relate on that level, but that doesn't necessarily mean that there's anything more between them. And I think they're both kind of realizing that now as the days go on, and they're like, I don't know that this is actually anything between the two of us, but we both still really like each other as people, type of thing.
Yeah. Yeah, but I definitely think Amaya's more in it than Austin.
Yes, for sure. I think she is definitely has thinks that there is more potential there, whereas Austin, I think, yeah, doesn't really see that. But I don't think that like either of them going into Casa tomorrow, if they're both still there, I don't think that either of them are going to be like, oh no, I'm really happy in my current couple and I'm not willing to explore options with, you bombshells.
Yeah, that would be crazy.
Yeah. Well, then we have Ace and Shelley, and thank God they're together now. We needed to get to the end of their will they won't they.
Yeah.
And finally, we have gotten there and they're exploring things. And it feels like they are a married couple for 25 years. Like, I feel like just immediately the second they coupled up, it was like they are just instantly together as like an exclusive couple.
Yeah. Well, I think because they had been building up to it,
Yeah.
so it kind of just happened organically for them. And I like that they feel comfortable with each other and they're just, I don't know, like I like seeing them together. So I'm happy. Happy they're finally in a couple.
No, I am too, because they needed to decide, like, because I don't think either of them were going to be able to have a healthy, like, fully focused relationship with anyone else until they found out whether they were going to work out together. Because, like, if they, couple up and find out, like, hey, we're not actually that compatible, then at least they can move on. They can both move on and actually fully focus on other relationships, but until they actually explored that with each other first, like that was all they were going to be thinking about. So I'm really glad that they are, and it seems so far it feels like it's working. Like it feels like they have a great chemistry with each other, and they are like two peas in a pod. So we'll see with Casa whether that holds, whether either of them fully strays, which I see Ace doing probably. So we'll see what happens with that. But I think there's potentially, I think this is the couple that will have the most drama when they come back if either of them strayed.
Yeah, I can see that.
Well, then we next had Jalen, who tried Alandria's door, but it was locked, unfortunately. So Jalen remained single and vulnerable here. But then Taylor goes, and he also tries Elandria, and it does open. So Taylor and Elandria are together. They are a match, and I were you surprised by Elandria choosing Taylor over Jalen? Because I don't think I was not by the time we got here.
No, I wasn't surprised either. It just felt like Taylor and Orlando just had more chemistry and they just got along a lot better. Like, obviously, there's nothing wrong with Jalen. Like, he's a great guy, but just not the guy for Orlando.
Yeah, I think that it, but I would have like probably I don't remember exactly how the episode structure was, but was it this same episode where we saw Landry and Taylor in the photo booth making out and
Yeah.
had this good conversation? Okay, yeah. So once we saw that, I was like, okay, she's choosing Taylor. Before that, I really wasn't sure, but I think they needed to have that conversation where it was like, okay, we're going slowly, but there is potential here. Like we're both feeling that there is romantic potential and it's not just friends. So I think they needed to have that conversation, get over that hurdle before I was confident that Alandria would and should choose Taylor. But once they got there, I was like, yeah, I think they definitely need to explore this further.
Yeah, agreed.
Well, then we get Jeremiah's decision. Is he going to choose Iris or Huda? And he chooses Iris, which I I guess I was like shocked but not surprised, if that makes any sense. Like, where I was like, is he actually going to do this? Is he actually going to fully say to Huda, we're over? And he did. I didn't know if he had it in him, but he did. And I was very happy for him to make this decision because I think, as hard as it was for Huda to hear and see, I think she needed to hear and see this because I think this was the moment where it was like, okay, we're actually done. Like this isn't something that we're going to try to put back together. And I think this was the wake up call that Huda actually needed.
Yeah, I agree. It was not surprising to me either, just because I knew like Jeremiah seemed to be pretty fed up also with all the drama that was happening. Like he was hearing from his boys about it all, like it just didn't seem like it was the right move to stay in that kind of toxic cycle, what they were going through. So he made the smart move here to go with the more steady option, as you could say.
Yeah.
But it didn't seem like they had built a strong connection yet, obviously, because they had only been on one date and they didn't know each other as long. But I definitely think it was the right move for him to couple up with Iris here.
Yeah, and I don't think that this meant, and I think Iris knows this, that it doesn't mean that like he's necessarily like super into wanting to explore things further with Iris. It just was that this was more of like a saying no to to Huda than
Mm.
it was saying yes to Iris. It's like, when you vote for somebody, like whether it's like a political thing or whatever, and it's like, is this a vote for so and so or against someone else? And this was a vote against Huda
Yeah.
rather than for Iris. So I think that the message was very loud and clear to Huda, and I'm glad that it happened because Jeremiah deserves to explore other options, and Huda does as well. But before they do that, they both need to just be on the same page about that we're not going to try to make this work anymore.
Yeah. Just it's over and it has to be over.
Yes. Well, Huda and Jalen are single and up for elimination here. So then each Islander has to stand behind the person that they want to keep in the villa. So we saw this last season where I forgot her name, the girl, but she got 0 votes. Do you remember that? And like nobody
Yeah.
stood behind her.
Is it Cassidy?
Cassidy, that's right. Good
Okay.
memory. I think that's right. And yeah, it was just this image of like everyone standing in front of, I think it was Liv was the other person
Yeah.
vulnerable, and then nobody stood behind Cassidy. I was like, oh my God, I really hope that doesn't happen to either of them, honestly. But it doesn't. Because immediately we see like all the guys at first are going to stand behind Jalen and all the girls are going to stand behind Huda. But then once we get to Ace, of all people, Ace stands behind Huda. And I couldn't believe it, actually. Like, I don't. I still don't have an answer for this.
Well, he was talking to Shelly about it, and it just seemed like he did want to see if Huda could explore something else.
Yeah. Yeah, I guess that's right. I actually don't remember that conversation. But yeah, I was shocked in that moment when that happened. Like of all people, for Ace to be the one. But then he wouldn't even take her hand. Like she wants to like hold it in. She was like, hell no. So
Yeah.
but then, yeah, Iris, Alandria, Taylor, Hannah, all of them also stand behind Huda. So it ends up being a vote of 8-4. And Jalen is unfortunately eliminated here. But as we were talking about before we started recording here, Jalen seems to be doing fine.
Yeah, he has 1.4 million on TikTok, and all the brands, especially travel companies and like airlines, they're all like, "We'll send you places on your passport," because he only just got his passport to go on Love Island for going to Fiji and hadn't ever traveled before outside the country. So now he's gonna become some big influencer. It seems like just because of the reactions he's getting and just the amount of support. Everyone's very much on Team Jalen, even though he was barely on our TVs.
Wild. I can't fully explain it. I mean, I like Jalen, but I don't feel like he stood out that much to where like at 1.4 million on TikTok. Like I don't know where he was to start, but I know
Like,
it was under a
not that
million.
many.
So like
Because he
that's
got to, when I first saw his TikTok, it was like 600,000. And then it went up in the day to a million.
wow.
Yeah.
That's wild. Good for him. I'm happy for him. He seems like a really nice guy. So I'm really happy for him that he's getting this success.
So I think he probably started with like zero or like none. Because all of his videos are just of this after getting followers.
Wow.
So I don't know if he deleted his other
Yeah,
posts.
probably. I feel like a lot of people do
But
that. They're like, okay, let's start from scratch here. But
yeah.
wow, that's great. I'm very happy for Jalen. And I wonder who, if anyone, will have that same level of success when they get out of the villa.
I don't know. I mean, people are getting followers, but I don't know to that extent.
Yeah, and I know Bachelor Data is keeping up with the followers, so it's interesting because I mean already I know like on Instagram, I think they're all the ones that are currently in there that have been in there for at least a week or so. I think are over 100K, which like I
Yeah.
mean for Bachelor, like if you compare that to the Bachelor these days, like that's like 5 times what most of them are getting these days. So it shows you that's an interesting way of comparing like the popularity of something like Love Island, which is streaming and doesn't have the same ratings to compare to shows on cable or network television. This is kind of the only way that we can really compare them, and it's wild to see how much more popular Love Island is than any of those other shows.
Yeah. It's very big.
Yeah. Well, let's then start with episode 15 here. So Taylor and Alandria sit Huda down and tell her that she needs to completely separate from Jeremiah. Basically, exactly what we were just saying, that she needs to stop all the fighting. She agrees to do that, but then, in Huda fashion, she goes immediately and interrupts a conversation between Iris and Jeremiah. So they're in the speakeasy. Huda asked to speak with Jeremiah, and this is really though in an effort to get closure. And I think that she really did. Like I did see a difference in the way that she approached him now versus the day before. And they actually have a good conversation. They end up hugging, and this really to me did feel like a closure conversation that actually did need to happen. Probably not in that moment when he's talking to Iris. It probably could have waited 10 minutes, but I'm glad that it happened.
Yeah, I agree. I think it was a good conversation that they now can just put the past in the past and move on, and that's just for the better of everyone.
Yeah. Well, then we get a very fun rest of the episode because Megan the Stallion is here, which is crazy. That is wild. Like the budget is budgeting.
Yeah, no, Megan Thee Stallion killed it. She did such a good job, and it was fun to see her because she was on for a long part of this episode too.
Yeah, I loved the fact that they let her go in and with the girls in their dressing room and kind of gossip with them and talk about all their journeys so far. And you could tell she's a real fan. Like she didn't
Yeah,
just like get called up here and start watching Love Island the day before, and like she's been keeping up, and you can tell that, and it's really really cool to see. I think it really like lifted all the girls' spirits to like be like, oh my God, Megan Thee Stallion knows who I am. Like that's crazy.
yeah.
And so that was really, really fun. That was
Because now
cool to
they're
see.
celebs to her.
Exactly. That's just a wild thing to think about, I'm sure, for these girls. Because you don't know. They don't know when they're in there. And I don't know how much the new bombshells that have been coming in have told them about, like, what's been blowing up on TikTok and what viewers are thinking and all that stuff. Like, I'm not sure exactly, like, when the bombshells, like, come in, like, how long they're sequestered before they come in and how much they've seen. But this was kind of it seemed like this was really the first time that they fully understood, like, oh my God, we actually like have all these people watching us who know who we are now, and like people like Megan the Stallion are fans.
Yeah, yeah, it's
So
exciting.
yeah. Well, then she comes to host the challenge, and it is a three-part challenge. So it's girls versus boys. They start with a twerk off, followed by limbo, and then they finish with building a puzzle of. The girls build a puzzle of the new guy bombshell that could come in if they win, and the guys build a puzzle of the new girl bombshell who could come in if they win. So the girls end up winning this, and they bring in TJ as the new bombshell. But then, it's Love Island. Who really cares about the challenges? So the guys also get a bombshell. So, nothing really matter here, anyways. But they get Andrina. So, what were your first impressions of TJ and Andrina?
I like them. I feel like, I mean, the guys were so excited to see Andrea come in. But I feel like for the girls, it was really like Iris and I don't know. I guess Huda was excited, but it didn't really feel like TJ liked Huda. So it really just felt like TJ was there for Iris, basically.
Hmm.
Um, Even though he's also like Sierra. But I think that's jumping ahead a little bit. But I think in general, I like them. Like they brought some good energy and just good vibes to the villa.
Yeah, I was like, okay, finally. Like, it felt like, I don't know, I wasn't fully into like the Jalen and Pepe. Is like, I was kind of like, okay, the girls deserve better. And TJ, like, okay, we found out some things about, potentially his follows that were not exactly wonderful. So that kind of soured me a bit on him. But when he first came in, I was like, okay, this is an attractive guy. Like, I'm happy that the girls have some new eye candy, some new potential to couple up with some of these people who are more in friendship couplings or single. So I was happy to have some new blood here. The final new blood before we get to Casa, of course.
Yeah,
But
no, agreed. It was good to see some more bombshells coming in who actually people like.
yeah, exactly. So, episode 16, the last episode of the week here. So we kind of, most of the episode is just spent with the new bombshells, Adriana and TJ kind of figuring out, taking people aside to talk to them, figuring out who they connect with, who they want to couple up with. Andrina chats with Jeremiah and Nick primarily. And TJ primarily is interested potentially in Sierra, Huda, and Iris. So, what did you think about like who each of them connected most with? Kind of who do you feel like each of them are feeling mostly?
I think that Jeremiah makes the most sense for Regina because she was saying how he was like exactly the kind of guy she would want, basically. And he said that he has a soft spot for Latina women, and that's who she is as well. So I think they just make sense together. I mean, I think they had like Nick and Andrina had a good chat too, but it just makes more sense to me to see her couple up with Jeremiah. And then I think with TJ, I mean, him and Iris already kissed, so I already think like they're already in a little bit of a step ahead of the rest. But TJ also had a really good chat with Sierra. I don't think he's interested in Huda so anymore. I mean, like obviously they talked, but like I don't think for like a coupling they would match up. So I think he has the most shot, like the highest percentage of actually lasting is it with Iris.
I fully agree. I think Andrea is gonna be with Jeremiah. Like it seemed like at the end of the episode they kissed. Like they seemed to really like she seems really like head over heels over him. She's because she said something like he's not my like dream guy yet, but he's getting there. Like he has potential to be. And I'm like, okay, I don't think she's saying that about Nick. And so I think that he Jeremiah is definitely in the lead for her right now. And then TJ, yeah, I agree. I think that he's gonna end up with Iris probably because also like Iris, yes, she's in a couple with Jeremiah right now, but like I think that she has made it very clear to TJ that she's very open for other connections. Like she knows that she's just with Jeremiah because he doesn't want to be with Huda, not because he necessarily wants to be with Iris.
Yeah, and that would make sense because then that just splits up their couple. So then
Right.
they're both with other people.
Exactly. Well, the other kind of quick highlights from this last episode, Huda pulls Pepe for a chat, just kind of randomly out of nowhere, seemingly, and she does not give Hannah a heads up first. So, do you? Because this upset Hannah. She felt like, I've been there for Huda. The girl code that Huda would give her a heads up. Like, she doesn't need to ask for permission, but she just needs to say, like, hey, just out of respect for you, I am going to probably pull Pepe for a chat, so I just wanted you to know first. And she doesn't even do that. So, what did you think of that? Should Huda have done that, or is it fair game for her to pull whoever she wants for a chat?
I think she should have definitely asked Hannah because Hannah would have done that for her, or like also the reaction that Huda would have given, I think would have been a lot stronger and meaner than what Hannah was just like, well, it's okay, but like don't do that again. And I felt bad for Hannah, but also she like they're not exclusive, they haven't closed off, but it just didn't feel right for her that Huda would do that to her. So I get why Hannah's upset with her in that regards. But I mean, it's still also early on in Love Island, so you never know what's gonna be like who wants to pull who. But it would have been nice because they are friends that she would have had that heads up.
Yeah, exactly. Like I don't think that Huda needed to ask for permission. I just think she needed to give a heads up so she wasn't blindsided when suddenly Hannah walks by and Huda and Pepe are having a conversation together. Like, that's more than just like a random conversation. So I absolutely think that she should have given her a heads up and Huda eventually apologizes, but it's kind of an apology where it's like I've never done this before. I don't know. Like day one, I was with Jeremiah. Like I don't know how to do this. Like, come on. You've seen so many people pull people for chats. You've been on the other end of it where someone has pulled someone for Jeremiah for a chat, and you've been upset about it. Like, how do you not know how to do this at this point? Like, we're 2 weeks in, more than 2 weeks in. So
Yeah.
it's like I don't understand how Huda just kind of used that as the excuse, but it definitely felt like a violation of girl code there. But you know what? Huda, coulda, shoulda, woulda.
Yep. Exactly.
Then the other highlight here is that Sierra and Nick have consummated their relationship. So that's a big step. And there's also quite a bit of speculation that Hannah and Pepe did the same thing the night before, but that was never addressed on the show. It was seen by many viewers, but don't believe your eyes, I guess, because it was never talked about again. But the Sierra and Nick one certainly was. So, what do you think about that? Do you think that that will make them be more attached to each other going into Casa than they would have been otherwise?
I think so, but I mean, but that's also gonna now heighten the emotions on, especially on
Yeah.
Sierra's side. I think of like if Nick were to couple up with someone else or to bring someone else home from Casa, that would cause a lot of drama there. But I do think that Sierra and Nick have such a strong bond, like emotionally at this point now, physically as well, that I think that they could move on from that, but I like them together as we were saying from the beginning of the episode. So I think that just they'll continue to build.
I hope so. Yeah, I really, really like them together. I think there's a lot of potential there. They seem to really like each other, and yeah, I hope that Casa doesn't fully ruin that for them because I think there's potential with the two of them, more so than I think most couples at this moment that we have together. So, we will keep our fingers crossed there, but let's go into some predictions. So, for the coming week. So to start off, we have the episode tonight that I think has come out by now, but we have not yet watched it because we are recording this. So, who do you think that America will vote as their favorites and least favorites in tonight's episode?
Well, I think favorites. I think that Taylor and Alandria, like as a
Mm,
couple, I think they're gonna be top, as well as Nick and Sierra. I think like those two couples would be like the most popular. Like I know we voted individually, but like as
yeah.
couples, I think that they're two of the most popular. And also Ace and Shelly, like those three. I think, or at least Shelly for sure. I don't know about Ace, but for Shelly, she'll be in the safe column. I don't
Hmm.
know about Huda. Like Huda's like in my mind, like I think people will vote for her because they want to continue to see what she could maybe form a connection if she can, like with someone else. But I don't know if America likes her enough to keep her longer now.
Yeah.
So I'm worried for Huda, and then I mean Iris hasn't been there that long, so I'm like maybe she hasn't really built up that fan base.
Hmm.
So I'm worried for Iris as well. But for the guys, I don't really know. I mean, Pepe, I think he could go home. Like, I don't think people really care that much about him entirely. Um, I don't know. I mean, Jeremiah's gonna stay because he has to. Uh, but I don't know. It's interesting. It's hard to tell like who's gonna go home, but I know who's gonna
Yeah. Yeah, I think that probably in the top will be like Sierra and Nick, I think are probably just the people that I feel like I've seen voted for the most. Like I feel like Nick is on like everyone's ballot for guy favorite that I've seen.
I voted for
Like
Taylor.
you did. Okay.
Yeah.
Interesting. No, I voted for Nick for the guys, and I think like almost every ballot that I've just seen like posted online has Nick as the favorite for the guys. So I think that he is more than likely going to be the favorite there. For the girls, I think it's been a little. I've seen quite a few different ones. I've seen Sierra for sure. I've seen Amaya. That's who I voted for actually because I felt like Sierra was going to be safe, so I
Yeah.
didn't need to vote for her. Whereas I was a little bit afraid for our Amaya Papaya, so I voted for her. But I was debating voting for Huda, to be totally honest with you, because I was like, we need to see Huda in Casa. And to be voted out like one day before Casa would just be such a crime, I feel like. So I'm a little bit worried for her because I feel like a lot are not thinking like that, and they're just thinking that they're tired of the or sorry, the Jeremiah and Huda carousel of emotions and fighting.
Yeah.
So I feel like a lot of people are just going to be like, we got to get off this ride and we got to send Huda home. So I'm a little bit afraid that that she's not going to get enough votes to land where she's not vulnerable. And then I don't know exactly how this voting is working. If I'm going to guess, I think that the guys are going to be voting for the girls this time, and the girls are going to be voting for the guys. And I don't think that really either way, I don't think that Huda stands a chance because the girls said we're not going to be willing to save her three times. So whether
Yeah.
it's the girls or the guys, I just don't think the guys are going to do it either. So
Yeah. And I don't know about Austin where he's gonna fall.
that's a good. I feel like I could see Austin potentially being in the bottom for the guys. I could see
Yeah.
it because he's not in a strong couple,
Yeah.
and I don't think America. Well, I think the casuals really like Austin.
Yeah. But do they have the app?
Now that I'm thinking. Yeah.
I don't know.
I just think it's like I think of it as like Big Brother voting, where I'm like the casuals always ruin it on Big Brother, and I think that they potentially now that Love Island is so incredibly popular, I think that we could have a similar issue with Love Island voting, where someone like Austin is just the casuals are going to eat Austin up and they'll vote for him. So I don't know, but this is different because for least favorite, it's not like there was a least favorite vote. It's just whoever gets the least amount of votes.
Mhm.
So maybe Austin's not on the top of anyone's list. So I don't know. I don't know.
Yeah. Well, we're gonna see very
Yes, we
shortly.
will see. And then any predictions for Casa? Any couples that you think will stay together? Any couples that you think are definitely breaking up?
I think that Nick and Sierra will end up still being together. The rest of the couples, I have no idea.
Yeah.
I mean, also I think Taylor and Alandria also will stay together.
Hmm. Yeah, I
Um,
agree with that actually.
yeah,
I don't
but
think
then the
Taylor's the
rest,
type to just like, go off and be with someone else. I think at this point he's already kind of felt like he potentially almost lost her with Jalen. That I
Mhm.
think he already knows how that feels, and so I think he's not going to be willing to put himself in a position where she's going to see something later that's going to upset her and break up with him again or I think that he's kind of on his best behavior in Casa. I could see that for sure. And I don't
Yeah,
think Alandra is the type to just like, I think she'll maybe like playfully explore something if there's like a guy in there that she's interested in, but I don't think that she's gonna like take it to any level that would disrespect Taylor.
yeah, agreed. But I think anyone else is up for for breaking up
Yeah.
and
It's so
seeing what happens.
interesting. I feel like last season was such a different situation going into Casa, where it was a lot of couples that were very strong going in. And then they all kind of had this moment during Casa where like they were like broken apart and so much cheating happened there, or cheating. And then, they some of them got back together afterwards. But here I feel like we just only have like one, maybe two kind of strong-ish couples, but everyone else is kind of fair game. So I think we're going to be seeing a lot more craziness, like in terms of people getting with bombshells, and it's going to be a bloodbath, I think.
Yeah. Oh, for sure. I'm
And
excited
I
for
am
it.
excited for it. Yes. Well, we will be back next week. Molly, unfortunately, will not be with me next week to cover it, but we do have Mel here filling in, who was with us last week. So excited to talk about week 4 of Love Island with her, and then we will get your thoughts, Molly, the following week for sure on anything of the craziness, big moments that you miss. And thank you so much for listening. We be sure to follow us at Let's Chat Reality on social media and subscribe wherever you get your podcasts. And we will be back next week to cover all the Casa craziness. So check out then. And thanks so much for listening. Bye, everyone.
Bye.